if you keep speaking like a prisoner. Every time you speak, your words summon spiritual forces. Angels respond to truth, demons respond to fear. If your language is full of complaint, you're giving demons a microphone. If your language is full of faith, you're giving angels an assignment. Heaven and hell are both listening to your mouth. What are you authorizing today? You can't cast out fear if your language keeps feeding it. You can't rebuke doubt while your sentences agree with it. You can't command mountains while describing how big they are. You must shift from commentary to command. The children of Israel walked out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in their mouth. They left the land of slavery, but they never changed their language. They kept saying, "We were better off back there." So they walked in circles for 40 years because they spoke in circles. Freedom on the outside doesn't matter if you're still chained by what you say inside. God will never promote a voice that keeps cursing the place He's taking it. You must speak in the direction of your promise, not your past. If you want to see power, talk like someone who carries divine authority. Wake up and declare, "The Spirit of God lives in me." Say, "I am not who I used to be." Say, "The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is working in my life." You may not feel powerful, but faith doesn't depend on feeling. It depends on revelation. You were created to dominate, not to doubt. You were born to lead, not to live locked up in fear. But your tongue must match your identity. Your words must echo heaven's vocabulary. God calls you more than a conqueror, and when your mouth agrees, your life aligns. You can't walk in power if your conversations always highlight your pain. Stop saying, "I'm just trying to survive." Start saying, "I'm walking in victory." Stop saying, "Nobody helps me." Start saying, "God is my source." Stop saying, "This always happens to me." Start saying, "All things are working together for my good." You must arrest every negative word and replace it with faith, because every word you speak builds either a prison or a palace. You decide which one your spirit will live in. Even Jesus refused to speak like a prisoner when facing the cross. He said, "No one takes my life from me. I lay it down." That's not the language of a victim, that's the language of victory. He didn't let circumstances define his confession. His confession defined his circumstances. He spoke as one with authority, even while surrounded by enemies. That's how you walk in power. You speak from identity, not from insecurity. You speak from faith, not from fear. Your freedom is voice activated. You can't stay quiet and expect chains to fall. When Paul and Silas were in prison, they didn't whisper about their pain, they sang praises. And the prison shook. The same God is still listening for that kind of sound. When you open your mouth and worship in the middle of your storm, heaven opens its doors. The chains that held you begin to hear your voice and tremble. There's no cell strong enough to silence a believer who knows how to speak with power. The enemy doesn't fear your tears, he fears your tongue. He fears your declaration. He fears the sound of a believer who finally realizes, "I'm not a prisoner anymore." When you start talking like a son instead of a slave, chains start breaking before you even move. When you start speaking destiny instead of disappointment, the ground under you begins to shift. That's why he tries to keep you silent, because silence keeps you bound. But when you open your mouth, faith takes a breath and power takes position.